Betrayed. Broken, reborn. This is Novel Binge.
Just as the school bus was about to be hit by a runaway truck, I was the only one in the entire traffic control center who saw the countdown to death. My boss called me crazy. The system showed everything was normal, and the security guard was already holding me down by the shoulders. Before the countdown hit 0, I went against the rules and changed 3 traffic lights. The children survived, but I became known across the internet as the accident prophet. The first time I saw the countdown to death was at 20:17 a.m. The night shift at the Yunhai City Intelligent Traffic Dispatch Center was quieter than a funeral home. Dozens of surveillance screens hung on the wall, dividing the city into small patches of cold light. Overpasses, tunnel entrances, school entrances, and subway construction barriers all flowed silently across the screens. I sat at the farthest corner of the outsourcing workstation, with nothing but an old secondary monitor in front of me. Official dispatchers can issue instructions, but all I can do is log incidents, make phone calls, and fill out forms. To put it simply, if someone on the screen is actually about to die, all I can do is report it to my superiors first. Liao Cheng slammed a report form down in front of me. It's signed. I looked up at him. He was wearing the center's dark blue uniform, his name tag polished to a shine, and holding a half-full cup of coffee, working overtime in the early hours of the morning. He wasn't the least bit sleepy, because he wasn't the one who'd messed up. The report states, in the early morning of the 17th of June, Xu Chenzhou, a contracted surveillance operator, falsely reported a truck veering off course on the South 3rd Ring Road, resulting in a waste of official dispatch resources. I glanced at the time. That truck on the South 3rd Ring Road did indeed veer off course. The system captured it 3 times. In the end, nothing happened, Liao Cheng said, tapping the table. If nothing happened, it was a false alarm. I didn't put pen to paper. He smiled. Xu Chenzhou, do you really think you read all that? You read just a contract worker on the night shift, making $4,800 a month, and you think you can tell a full-time dispatcher how to write a report? A few permanent employees, standing nearby, kept their heads down, pretending not to hear. I know, they didn't fail to hear it. It is just that this kind of thing happens all the time. At the dispatch center, outsource the dirty work, and outsource the blame too. I picked up the pen, then put it down again. Manager Liao, I can't sign this. The smile vanished from Liao Cheng's face. Don't you want the money for your sister's rehabilitation treatment next month? My finger froze. He lowered his voice. I know you're short on money. I also know that to keep this class, you haven't even dared to take a day job. Don't push your luck. It feels like there is a piece of iron stuck in my throat. 3 years ago, I too stood in front of a group of people holding an accident report and said, my dad didn't violate any operating procedures. No one was listening. They said the system couldn't be wrong, that the dispatch records couldn't be wrong, and that my father Xu Zhangguo was the person primarily responsible for the chain reaction crash in Heilan Tunnel. Later, I learned to keep my mouth shut. I picked up my pen and was just about to sign when screen number 13 on the wall suddenly flickered. That is the school bus route monitoring system at Yunhai Experimental Elementary School. A yellow school bus had just pulled out from the service road. A cartoon dolphin was painted on its side. The windshield wipers slowly swept across the front windshield, and a warm glow shone from inside the bus, where children could be seen sleeping in all sorts of positions. The next second, a string of red numbers appeared above the school bus. 0:03分17秒. I stared at the screen. That string of numbers looked as if it were embedded in the screen, red as blood. 0:03分16秒. 0:03分15秒. I jumped to my feet. The chair slammed backward with a screech. Liao Cheng snapped impatiently. What's gotten into you now? I ignored him, rushed over to the main screen, and adjusted the school bus route to go 3 intersections further back. At the Nanlin intersection, a heavy-duty truck was driving downhill. System, note, normal. Speed, 47 kilometers per h. Lane, right-hand freight lane. But I saw the front of the car shaking. The rear was straddling the line, and the thermal image of the right front tire looked off. And then there is that string of numbers. It was also floating on the roof of the truck. 0:02分49秒. I picked up the internal phone. A heavy truck at the Nanlin intersection appears to have brake problems, requesting a temporary stop on the school bus route. Zhao, the dispatcher on duty, paused for a moment. The system didn't sound an alarm. The operator observed the vehicle swaying and detected abnormal temperature in the right wheel stop. It immediately. Liao Cheng rushed over and slammed the phone down. Xu Chenzhou, are you out of your mind? I just had you sign off on a false alarm, and now you're sending another one. School buses are prone to accidents. Which car? Yunhai Experimental Elementary School Bus. Number 3. Liao Cheng glanced at the screen and gave a cold laugh. We're going 30. On the right track, and the traffic light up ahead is green. Tell me, where could something go wrong? I pointed at the screen. That truck's brakes aren't working properly, and in less than 3 minutes, it's going to crash into the school bus at the Singgang intersection. The entire duty room fell silent for a moment. Then someone burst out laughing. Shoo, have you been pushing yourself too hard these past few days? Can you see into the future? Liao Cheng's expression grew even more grim. Pull him away. I watched the countdown. 0:01分58秒. The school bus has already turned onto the second street. street. The truck is still going downhill. Based on the current traffic light cycle, the school bus will turn left onto Singang Road, and the truck will be allowed to proceed straight. The intersection is exactly where the countdown reaches 0. I pushed Liao Cheng aside and picked up the phone again. Is this the Traffic Police Command Center? There's a heavy-duty vehicle causing an unusual situation on Nanlin Road. Dispatch a patrol car immediately to intercept it. The operator on the other end asked, please provide your employee ID and the source of the alert. Outsourced monitor. Xu Chenzhou. Source, manual monitoring assessment. Day 16. Did the system trigger an alarm? No. In that case, please submit an incident ticket following the standard procedure. I looked at the numbers. 0.01分, 12秒. Process. It is the same old process. 3 years ago, during that 37-vehicle pileup in the Heilan Tunnel, my dad also shouted in his last phone call, don't wait for the procedures, downgrade the alert level first. No one was listening. My palms started to get sweaty. Liao Cheng has already called security. Take him outside. Don't let him touch the equipment. 2 security guards grabbed my shoulders, one on each side. I stared intently at the screen. 0.48秒. Inside the school bus, a little boy was leaning against the window, still holding his backpack. It suddenly occurred to me that Shu Nian used to sleep like that when she was little. She always says, bro, don't drive so fast, it scares me. I struggled hard, but couldn't break free. Liao Cheng pointed his finger at me and shouted, Xu Chenzhou, if you dare to cause any more trouble today, I'll make sure you lose even your contract with the outsourcing company. 0.36秒. I saw that the traffic light at the Singang intersection was about to turn green. The school bus began to slow down. The truck didn't slow down. I looked down and saw that the secondary monitor at my workstation was still on. Outsourced accounts do not have scheduling permissions. However, the old version of the emergency interface has a cache entry that was discontinued long ago. My dad once told me that no matter how quickly urban systems evolve, the underlying protocols won't break down easily. What really saves lives isn't usually a sleek new interface, but rather the old channels that no one wants to maintain. I stomped down hard on the security guard's foot, shoved another person aside, and rushed back to my workstation. Xu Chenzhou. Liao Cheng was shouting so hard his voice had changed. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I typed the code. At the Nanlin intersection, manually set the traffic light to red. Singang East exit. 16-second delay in traffic release. The pedestrian signal in front of the school bus turned red early. The system displayed a warning, invalid scheduling request. I entered the old interface number. Second warning, insufficient permissions. Gritting my teeth, I typed in the last set of verification codes my father had taught me. The screen went black. The next second, 3 traffic lights were simultaneously taken over. 0.9秒. The school bus driver seemed startled by the sudden red light and slammed on the brakes. The car leans forward. The children were startled awake from their seats. 0.3秒. A runaway truck plowed into the Singang intersection. It barely missed the front of the school bus. Then with a loud crash, it slammed into the median barrier. The surveillance footage shook violently. The entire screen was covered in white mist, debris, and rain. No one spoke in the duty room. My hand is still resting on the keyboard, and my fingertips are numb. A few seconds later, the school bus door opened. The driver stumbled out of the car. One by one, the children were carried out, crying. They're all alive. Before I even had a chance to breathe a sigh of relief, Liao Cheng grabbed me by the collar. Who told you to change the lights? I looked at him. I saved someone. You illegally hacked into the dispatch system. His eyes were red. I didn't know if it was from fear or anger. Xu Chenzhou, you're finished. At 6 a.m. that morning, a news alert popped up in Yunhai City. The urban safety brain issued an early warning, successfully preventing a major school bus accident. In the news footage, Liao Cheng stands in front of the camera, looking exhausted yet determined. He said, "We just did what dispatchers are supposed to do. The child's safety comes first." I was sitting in the interrogation room, looking at the face on my phone, when I suddenly felt like laughing, but I couldn't bring myself to smile, because the personnel notice has been issued. Xu Chenzhou, an outsourced security guard, has been suspended from duty pending an investigation into allegations of misconduct. Liao Cheng took credit for the achievement. He left the pot for me. I sat in the interrogation room for 4 hours, and no one offered me any water. By the time I stepped outside, it was already light out, the rain had stopped, and the city looked as clean as if nothing had ever happened. I rushed to Yunhai, 3rd Rehabilitation Hospital. Xu Nian is staying on the 9th floor of the inpatient ward. She's 20 years old this year, with hair cut to her shoulders and a face so small, it seems as if she'll never grow up. Her neurogenic memory disorder often causes her to forget what she ate tea the day before, but she always remembers when I come to visit her. When I pushed the door open and walked in, she was sitting on the bed folding paper stars. "Bro," she looked up at me and smiled. That cold, hard spot in my chest suddenly softened. "How are you feeling today?" The nurse said I'm doing better than yesterday. She pressed a paper star into the palm of my hand. "Here you go. I'll put it away and go to the payment window to pay the outstanding medical bill." The nurse slid the form toward me. "Please have a family member sign here and fill in the patient's date of birth." I looked down. Name, Chu. Nian, relationship, brother and sister. As I filled in the birthday section, I held the pen and suddenly stopped. I know her name is Shu Nian. I know she likes to drink hot milk, is afraid of thunder, and used to always hold onto the hem of my shirt when we walked together when she was little, but I can't remember her birthday. It is not that my memory is fuzzy. It looked as if a piece had been cut out of that spot. I stared at the blank field, and a chill slowly crept up my spine. The nurse called out, "Sir." I opened my mouth. There is no sound. Shu Nian had come up beside me without me noticing and whispered, "Bro, the 26th of March. She thought I was too tired, so she stood on tiptoe to look at me. "Did you stay up late again last night? I'll fill in the date." Well, go back to bed then," she said with a smile. "Don't act like you're made of iron." I looked at her. Suddenly, I felt very scared. The child on the school bus survived, but something vanished from my mind. It was just a birthday. What about next time? What will I forget? On the third day of my suspension, the second countdown began. That afternoon, I was waiting in the hospital hallway for Shu Nian to finish her exam. The television is currently airing a live broadcast of the construction of Line 7 of the Yunhai Metro. Standing outside the construction barrier, the host smiled as he announced, "The eastern extension of Line 7 is expected to open by the end of the year and will be integrated with the CI Thai Safety Brain Construction Monitoring System, enabling round-the-clock." The camera pans across the underground construction pit. Red numbers appeared on one of the support beams. 1:26分44秒. The water bottle in my hand fell to the ground. Water spilled all over the floor. Shu Nian turned around. "Bro." I rushed to the nurse's station and borrowed a phone to call the police. At the construction site for the eastern extension of Metro Line 7, a cave-in is expected within an hour and a half. The operator paused for a second. "Sir, are you with the construction company?" "No." "Do you have any evidence from the scene?" "I saw it." "What do you see?" I watched the numbers on the TV screen count down second by second. Countdown. There was silence on the other end. Then his tone became very formal. "Sir, you will be held legally responsible for maliciously tying up emergency resources." I hung up the phone and ran straight out. Shu Nianjue ran to the elevator. "Bro, where are you going?" I turned to look at her, wanting to say it was okay, but the way she looked at me made it seem as if she had already figured something out. I just said, "Wait for me to come back." The subway construction site is 7 kilometers away from the hospital. When I arrived, a police line had already been set up outside. It wasn't because of an accident, but because a high-ranking official was on an inspection tour. So security at the scene was tighter than usual. I tried to go inside, but the security guard stopped me. "Construction zone. Authorized personnel only. There's a problem with the support beams inside. Have everyone evacuate immediately." "Who are you?" Just as I was about to speak, a hand pressed down on my shoulder. "Shu Chenzhou." I turned my head. A man in his 30s was standing behind me, wearing a black jacket and with a somber look in his eyes. He showed his ID. "Yunhai Criminal Investigation Detachment. Han Zheng." My heart sank. He looked at me. "Before the school bus accident, you illegally adjusted the lights at the dispatch center. And today, right as the live broadcast of the subway construction began, you called the police again to report a potential cave-in. Please explain why you always seem to know about these incidents before they happen." I said, "I don't have time to explain right now. Then I'll cooperate with the investigation." There are 12 minutes left on the countdown. In the construction pit, workers are welding temporary scaffolding. I heard a faint groan coming from the steel beam. It is very light. It was drowned out by the sounds of welding and machinery, but that string of red numbers was getting brighter and brighter. 0:11分39秒. I stared at Han Zheng. "You can arrest me, but let them leave first." Han Zheng didn't move. His suspicion is understandable. A suspended contract dispatcher showed up at the scene of an accident early twice in a row, and anyone would find that suspicious. I shook off his hand and shouted toward the police line. The third support beam on the east side, right below the well. "Evacuate immediately." The person in charge at the scene ran over and shouted, "Who let him in? Get him out of here. That beam isn't supporting the right amount of weight." The person in charge glanced at the spot I was pointing to, and his face turned dark. "Do you know anything about construction? Do you know how much that monitoring system costs? The city safety brain has been monitoring it in real time and didn't trigger an alarm. So what are you yelling about?" Han Zheng signaled 2 police officers to restrain me. There are 5 minutes left on the countdown. My hands were pinned behind my back, and my face was pressed against the cold, damp fence. I saw a worker wearing a yellow hard hat in the construction pit look up and catch my eye. He hesitated for a moment. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "Run! Everyone on the east side, run!" I don't know if it was because my voice sounded so awful or if that beam really did make a second sound. The workers in yellow hard hats suddenly dropped their tools and shouted, "Get out of here! The beam is creaking." Some people called him crazy. Someone turned around to look. The next second, a white line appeared where the weld on the support beam had cracked open. The sound was like bones cracking. Han Zheng's expression changed. He spun around abruptly. "Withdraw the troops." The police officer and the construction site safety officer rushed in at the same time. Before the countdown reached 011, workers ran out of the area affected by the cave-in. I didn't have time to do the last one. When the landslide occurred, the ground seemed to be lifted up by an invisible hand. Reinforcing bars, mortar, and concrete were all jumbled together. Dust hit my face, and all I could hear was a roaring sound in my ears. Once the scene had quieted down, I saw the yellow hard hat roll to my feet. There is a crack on the side of the hard hat. The people inside didn't come out. Hanjung stood at the edge of the landslide, looking very grim. He turned to look at me. This time, there was more than just suspicion in his eyes. "There is one more thing. Shu Chenzhou," he asked. "What exactly did you see?" I didn't answer. I saw the countdown disappear, but I also know that I didn't save everyone. That night, the internet went wild. Someone edited my video. Before the school bus accident, I was at the transportation center. I was at the construction site just before the subway collapse. The headlines are getting more and more outrageous. Is Yunhai a prophet of accidents? Why does he always arrive early? Outsourced dispatcher or urban hacker? The same man behind 2 public incidents. Liao Cheng gave an interview with a somber expression. Shu Chenzhou has always been somewhat unstable. During the school bus incident, our team had already noticed something was off, but he went ahead and made changes on his own, causing confusion in the system records. We've always been worried he might do something even more dangerous. After watching the interview in my rented apartment, I placed my phone face down on the table. The rental apartment is very small. On the table were a hospital bill, a cup of instant noodles, and an old black USB drive. That was a keepsake my dad left behind. I found it in his old toolbox 3 years ago, after the Heilan Tunnel accident. I tried opening it, but all I saw was a bunch of garbled characters. After that, I didn't touch it again. But early this morning, someone sent me an anonymous email. Attached are the system logs for the school bus accident and the subway accident. Both logs contain the same blank section, 0.8 seconds. The urban safety brain lost 0.8 seconds of data prior to the accident. I stared at that blank space and suddenly remembered something. NG. My dad had once said, the system doesn't lose data out of thin air. When it remains silent, it's often lying on someone's behalf. The doorbell rang. I tucked the USB drive under a book and walked over to open the door. Standing outside the door was someone I hadn't seen in a long time. Zhou Yan. In college, he was my best friend. We worked together on a traffic flow prediction model and stayed up late together tweaking the code. Later, my dad had an accident. I dropped out of school, and he joined Starring Smart City. It had been 3 years since I'd last seen him, and he was wearing a well-tailored suit and a watch on his wrist, one whose brand I couldn't identify. Sunken ship. He called my name in a familiar tone, but his gaze was unfamiliar. I didn't let him in. Is something wrong? He glanced at the hallway security camera. I can't talk about it here. Then don't say anything. He sighed. You haven't changed a bit. I gave a cold laugh. Did you come here just to catch up? Zhou Yan was silent for a moment, then took a document out of his bag. We can cover Shu Nian's medical expenses. We can also arrange for her transfer to another hospital, consultations with specialists, and imported medications. I stared at him. Conditions. He didn't beat around the bush. Give me the old USB drive your father left behind. The light in the hallway flickered. I could feel my heartbeat slowing down. Who told you I have a USB drive? Zhou Yan avoided my gaze. Chenzhou, stop investigating. School buses and the subway. These aren't matters you should be getting involved in. You just had bad luck and got dragged into this. Dragged into it? I took a step forward. Or did you know all along that I'd see it? His expression changed. Very slight. But I saw it. He said, the most important thing for you right now is your sister. I nodded. So someone's using her to blackmail me? It's not a threat. It's a choice, Zhou Yan said, his voice dropping. You can't defeat the star ring. Your father couldn't defeat it back then either. I grabbed him by the collar. What happened to my dad back then? Zhou Yan looked at me, and for a moment, a flicker of hesitation crossed his eyes. But in the end, he simply said, hand over the USB drive and take Shu Nian away from Yunhai. That's the last piece of advice I can give you. I let go. Get lost. After he left, I went back inside and locked the door from the inside. The computer screen lit up without me noticing. I didn't touch the mouse. A line of text popped up on the black page. Stop looking up. 0.8 seconds. I stared at the screen. Another line of text appeared. What you see is not the future. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The other person continued typing. This is the death result, generated by the system. I asked, who are you? The screen had been blank for a long time. Xia Nan. I've heard that name before. 2 years ago, an algorithm engineer at Starring Smart City was publicly reprimanded internally for leaking trade secrets, and she subsequently disappeared. I typed, what is the candle dragon? The other person didn't answer. The screen went black. All that remained was my own reflection. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I went to the hospital to visit Shu Nian. She was recording with her phone, but when she saw me come in, she hurriedly turned it off. What are you recording? Nothing, she said, tucking her phone under her pillow. I just jotted down a few things so I wouldn't forget. I looked at her and didn't call her out on it. She was looking at me, too. Bro, are you hiding something from me? I handed her the peeled apple. No, you never look at me when you lie. I lowered my head. She said softly, I heard from a nurse yesterday that the person in those videos online is you. My hand froze. Don't look at those. They say you're a bad person. I'm not. I know. Her answer came so quickly that my throat tightened. I asked, why? She smiled. Because you're my brother. Those words were spoken lightly, yet they carried more weight than any evidence. Just as I was about to speak, I suddenly heard the sound of hurried footsteps outside the hospital room. The backup power monitoring screen at the end of the hallway flashed twice. I looked up. Red numbers float in the center of the screen. 0:48 分. Location, Rehabilitation Building. 3rd Rehabilitation Hospital. My head went buzzing. This isn't the school bus. It is not a construction site. That is the building where Xu Nian lives. I rushed out of the ward and grabbed the nurse. Check the backup power supply for the rehabilitation building, immediately. I ate. Where is the electrical room? The nurse was startled by me. What are you doing? The power is going to go out in this building, and there could be a problem with the oxygen lines. Evacuate the patients on the 9th floor first. The nurse's expression changed instantly. Sir, please calm down. I know why she looks at me that way. People online have already made me out to be a lunatic. Hospital security arrived shortly thereafter. Han Zheng was there, too. He must have been staring at me the whole time. Xu Chenzhou. He stood at the far end of the hallway, his tone more somber than last time. Come with me. I watched the countdown. 0:39分, 12秒. Have the hospital evacuate its staff first. I'll have someone check it out, Han Zheng said. But you can't just do whatever you want. There's no time. You always say there's no time, because there really isn't enough time. My voice echoed through the hallway. Xu Nian stood at the doorway of the hospital room, her face pale. I suddenly realized I had scared her. I lowered my voice. Captain Han, the backup power supply is overloaded, and the temperature in the electrical room is abnormal. There's respiratory support equipment on the 9th floor. If the power goes out, people will die. Han Zheng stared at me. How do you know? I pointed at the screen in the hallway. I saw it. He followed my hand with his gaze. The screen is displaying normally. No numbers. There is no red light. There is only one row of stable green parameters. The wavering in Han Zheng's eyes was gradually overshadowed by reason. He motioned for the police officer to come closer. Restrain him first. I took a step back. There are 30 minutes left on the countdown. The electrical distribution room is located on the 2nd basement level. If I were taken away right now, the power would go out in the rehabilitation building within half an hour. The pressure in the oxygen lines would become abnormal, and the elevator would get stuck between the 7th and 8th floors. I didn't figure these out on my own. Just as I was watching the countdown, more tiny red lines suddenly appeared on the screen. Like a net. Backup power supply oxygen valve elevator control panel, ventilator on the 9th floor. Each red line points to a trigger point. This was the first time I saw the entire chain of events leading up to the accident. But at the same time, a voice in my head was pulling things out. The image of Xu Nian as a child suddenly grew blurry. I bit my tongue. The pain brought me back to my senses. I turned and ran into the emergency exit. Stop him. A cacophony of footsteps echoed behind him. I rushed all the way down to the 2nd basement level, and when I kicked open the door to the electrical room, there was already a smell of burning inside. The electrician on duty was startled. Who are you? Switch to circuit 2 and cut power to the load next to the oxygen pump. Are you crazy? You can't just cut off the power to a hospital. Countdown, 0 hours 8 minutes and 21 seconds. I rushed over to the control panel. The electrician rushed over to stop me. I pushed him away and pressed the manual switch with my finger. The red line in my mind is becoming clearer and clearer. If the main power is cut off, the respiratory equipment on the 9th floor will shut down. If you shut off the secondary line first and then manually open the old valve, the oxygen pressure will remain stable, but the elevator must stop on the 8th floor at the same time. Otherwise, the mother and child inside will be trapped on the floor where the malfunction occurred. I grabbed the walkie-talkie. Elevator number 7 is about to make an emergency stop on the 8th floor. Don't ask questions. Just do as you retold. The person across from him snapped. Who are you? I yelled. If you want to save him, just do as I say. Maybe my tone was too harsh, or maybe the hospital's back-end system finally detected an anomaly in the data. The elevator light on the 8th floor flashed once, then stopped. I switched to the backup channel. A string of sparks shot out of the distribution panel. Half of the basement went dark in an instant. The force of the impact knocked me over, and the back of my head hit the wall. Before I passed out, I saw the countdown stop at 0 hours 0 minutes and 2 seconds. Then, it shattered into pieces. When I woke up, it was the next morning. White ceiling, the smell of disinfectant. There is a needle stuck in the back of my hand. A girl was sitting by the bed. Her eyes were red, and as soon as she saw me wake up, she immediately came over. Bro? I looked at her. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I know she is important. She means so much to me that when I see her cry, it hurts my heart. but I can't remember who she is. Her name was on the tip of her tongue, but she just couldn't bring herself to say it. The color gradually drained from the girl's face. I opened my mouth. You. She paused for 2 seconds, then smiled. That was a really awkward smile. My name is Xu Nian. I closed my eyes. In the darkness, memories are like severed cables. No matter how hard I try, I can't grasp them. I saved the rehabilitation building. He saved her, too, but I've forgotten what she looks like. At 9 a.m., Shen Yangxiu, executive president of Xinhuan Smart City, arrived at the hospital. He didn't come to see me. He led a group of media representatives to visit patients affected by why the power outage at the hospital. Wearing a suit and glasses, with a gentle voice, he stood among the crowd, looking like someone who truly cared about the city's safety. He told the camera, "We will move forward with upgrading the urban safety brain as soon as possible to prevent similar incidents from happening again." I was sitting on a bench in the hallway, and my head still hurt. He walked up to me, with no reporters by his side. "Shu Chenzhou." I looked up. The way he looked at me didn't resemble Liao Cheng or Han Zheng. Liao Cheng thinks I'm a hassle. Han Zheng thinks I'm a suspect. Shen Yangxiu looked at me as if I were a machine running a Xianing program. "You've saved a lot of people," he said. I didn't say anything. He sat down next to me. "But as you've probably already realized, saving lives isn't without its costs." My fingers tightened. He smiled. "Don't look at me like that. I just understand the system better than most people." "What system?" "A city," he said. "A city is too complex. People react too slowly. Processes are too cumbersome, and there are too many emotions. Accidents happen every day. We need something smarter that can tell us in advance where people will die." I stared at him. Should I let them know in advance, or make arrangements in advance? The smile on Shen Yangxiu's face remained unchanged. "You still can't tell the difference." He handed me a business card. "You can't save everyone, Xu Chenzhou, but I can make sure accidents like this don't happen again." The business card is stiff, with sharp edges. I didn't answer it. The business card fell on the floor. Shen Yangxiu stood up and smoothed out his cuffs. "You'll come looking for me when you've forgotten even more." That afternoon, the police issued a public appeal for information. Xu Chenzhou is suspected of illegally hacking into the city's public safety system, disrupting traffic control and hospital power supplies, and creating major safety hazards. Members of the public with relevant information are asked to come forward with tips. My photo is at the top of the bulletin. Liao Cheng delivered another blow. He provided several internal records proving that I had shown an unusually prolonged interest in footage of the accident, and made multiple attempts to log into the system beyond my authorized access. My name is on every record. I've seen some of them. I don't have some of them. As I was leaving through the back door of the hospital, Han Zheng's men were at the front door. He didn't immediately surround him. I know he did that. On purpose he slowed down just a little. But that doesn't mean he trusts me. But he also witnessed the true consequences of the hospital incident. I took my old USB drive and went to an abandoned office building in the western part of the city. Xia Nan asked me to meet her there. She was younger than I had imagined, with short hair, wearing a black sweatshirt, a laptop bag slung over her shoulder, and a habit of looking at people's hands first. "You look terrible." That was the first thing she said. I said, "Say, Candle Dragon." She stared at me for 2 seconds. "How much do you know?" "I know the countdown isn't the future. It's the outcome of an accident calculated by some system." Xia Nan remained silent. The wind outside rattled the broken window. She turned on her computer and brought up a diagram that I couldn't make sense of. Xinhuan has an undisclosed project, codenamed Candle Dragon. Initially, it was simply an accident prediction algorithm, integrated with monitoring systems for transportation, hospitals, power grids, subways, and bridges to simulate public risks. At first, she avoided my gaze. Later, the project was upgraded. It doesn't just assess risks, it also provides recommendations for intervention. School buses, subways, hospitals. Did it calculate all of that? Yes. Then, why can I see it? Xie Nan paused for a moment as his fingers hovered over the keyboard. "The Halen Tunnel accident. You were there 3 years ago, weren't you?" My breath caught in my throat. That is the memory I'd rather not think about. On the day my dad died, I was near the tunnel too. Before the car accident happened, he called me and told me not to drive into the tunnel, but I drove right through it anyway. Amid the chaos, I saw red numbers flash across the tunnel's surveillance screen. It was just that at the time, I thought the blast had temporarily blinded me. Xia Nan said, "Zhulong has a visualization interface for incident outcomes that ordinary people can't see because it's locked away within the internal system. When your father tried to shut it down back then, it triggered an abnormal data backflow. You may be the only recipient to have survived that backflow." I smiled. A human-shaped error screen. She didn't smile. Pretty much. I took out the USB drive. "What about this one?" The moment Xia Nan saw the USB drive, his expression changed. "Did your father leave this to you? Do you know him?" She closed her laptop. Shu Chenjo, your father wasn't the one who caused the accident. I looked at her. I've been waiting 3 years to hear those words. But when I actually heard it, I wasn't as excited as I'd imagined I would be. There was only a deep, penetrating chill that slowly seeped from my bones. Go on. I don't know everything, said Xia Nan. All I know is that, before the Heilan tunnel accident, Zhulong had run a high-risk simulation. Your father requested a system downgrade, but it was denied. Then the accident happened. All the logs were sealed, and your father was held responsible. Who rejected it? Xia Nan didn't answer. Her silence was the answer. Star Ring. Or rather, Chen Yangxiu. I found Lu Mingyuan that same evening. He is a reporter for the Yunhai Evening News. 3 years ago, it was he who wrote that article, Illegal Dispatch Led to the Heilan Tragedy. That article nailed my dad to the pillar of shame, like a nail. When I cornered him outside the newspaper office, he looked terrible. Shu Chenjo, you're a wanted man right now. What are you doing here? I said, give me the interview material from 3 years ago. He tried to leave, but I stopped him. Your reporting killed my dad for the second time. Lu Mingyuan stopped in his tracks. The rain fell on his shoulders. After a long pause, he said, that wasn't the final version I submitted. I looked at him. He took an external hard drive out of his bag. I kept a copy of the unedited footage for the past 3 years. I haven't dared to take it out. Why are you daring to do that now? He gave a wry smile. Because I too want to know who exactly I lied for back then. There is a video on the hard drive. The image is very shaky. On the day of the Heilan tunnel accident, thick smoke, police sirens, and cries of distress mingled together. My dad was covered in blood when he was dragged out of the control room. The reporter handed him the microphone. Someone asked, Engineer Shu, was it your violation of operating procedures that caused the system to go out of control? My dad acted as if he hadn't heard. He clutched the camera, his eyes bloodshot. Demotion. His voice was hoarse. We must be relegated. Someone rushed over to block the camera, and the video cut off. I kept listening to those 4 words over and over. Demotion. It is not a fix. It is not a restart. It is a demotion. After reading it, Xia Nan's expression changed as well. If your father is referring to the city downgrade mode, then this feature shouldn't exist in the current system. I took out the USB drive. Here? She shook her head. I'm not sure. The early urban security brain retained a set of protocols for manual takeover, but Starring later upgraded the system and discarded them. Theoretically, only the original architects know the access point. My dad was one of the early architects, but I can't remember. My memory is getting worse and worse. I'm starting to forget the lock code to my rental apartment, the routes I usually take, and whether Shunian preferred strawberry or mango-flavored candy when she was a kid. All I can do is keep writing notes. Shu Nian, younger sister, 20 years old, birthday on the 26th of March. Father Shu Jianguo, Heilan Tunnel, not a criminal. Xinghuan, Chen Yangxiu, Zhulong. Don't assume the system is working properly. Every time I write one, I feel like I'm leaving a farewell letter for a stranger in the future. On the evening of the 3rd day, Yunhai City held a press conference to announce the upgrade of its urban safety brain system. The event will take place at the Xinghuan Smart City headquarters. Shen Yangxiu took the stage himself. Live broadcast across the city. He stood in front of a huge blue screen, with the 3D traffic model of Yunhai City behind him. Cities need smarter systems that are more efficient, safer, and more reliable. Jia Nan and I were hiding in an old van, watching the live stream. Lu Mingyuan was in the passenger seat, testing the backup signal. Han Zheng sent me a message. Just 4 characters. Don't go out there to get yourself killed. Just as I was about to reply, the screen suddenly flashed red. Not a string. That is 3 strings. Cross River Bridge, 0 hours 29 minutes and 59 seconds. Metro Central Transfer Station, 0 hours 29 minutes and 59 seconds. 3rd Hospital Oxygen Supply System, 0 hours 29 minutes and 59 seconds. 3 chains of accidents, unfolded simultaneously, with red lines crisscrossing, like a web covering the entire city. My breath caught in my throat. Xia Nan also noticed the system anomaly. How could there be 3 concurrent events? Lu Mingyuan's face turned pale. If something were to happen to both of them at the same time, he didn't need to say it. During the evening rush hour on the bridge across the river, traffic is heavy. The subway transfer station is currently very crowded. The 3rd hospital's oxygen supply system is connected to the intensive care unit building. A problem at any one point would be a disaster. If 3 incidents occur simultaneously, the entire city will come to a standstill. Just then, my phone rang. Shu Nian. I answered the phone. Her voice was very soft. Bro, I'm in the ambulance. My hand, holding the phone, froze. Where are you? The doctor said we had to transfer him to another hospital, and the car had just pulled onto the bridge over the river. Bro, I saw the news. Are you going to save someone again? On the screen, The countdown on the bridge spanning the river cut like a knife. 0:27分41秒. Shen Yangsu's press conference is still underway. He smiled and said, "Time will prove that only the urban safety brain can make the best decisions in the face of complex risks. I finally understand. This is the proof problem he gave me. Save the bridge across the river, or the subway and the hospital will explode. If she saves the hospital, Chu Nian might die. Save the subway, and the bridge will collapse." Candle Dragon divided the entire city into 3 hostages. But I'm all alone. Xia Nan's voice trembled. It's not a prediction, it's driving a chain of events. She finally said what she had been holding back all along. The Candle Dragon can now manipulate risk weights. It can push the probability of a failure, which would otherwise be only 1%, up to 90%. I stared at the screen. My head started to hurt. It is not just any kind of pain. It's as if countless hands are tearing at my memories. I saw Xu Nian standing outside the hospital waiting for me. When she was a child, the image had barely appeared when it shattered. I saw my dad standing in the kitchen, fixing an old radio. The next second, his face was gone. I covered my head and almost fell to my knees. On her phone, Xu Nian burst into tears. "Bro, listen to me. Nian." When that name was mentioned, I breathed a sigh of relief. "I still remember. At least I still remember it for now," she said. "I've recorded a lot of stuff these past few days. I'm afraid you'll forget." A recording played over the phone. It wasn't her voice. "It is my dad. It is very old and has some electrical static. Chen Zhou, if one day the system starts deciding who should die, don't fix it, just shut it down." I froze in my tracks. The recording continues. "The downgrade key isn't in the new system, it's at the old manual dispatch console. The USB drive is just a gateway to truly confirm it. You need a human touch." My mind went blank. A memory that had been buried for 3 years suddenly resurfaced. On the night of the Halen Tunnel accident, my dad slipped a USB drive into my hand. He said, "If I don't make it back, don't let them hand the city over to algorithms." I just remembered. Transportation Center Control Room. That old-fashioned manual dispatch console, which had long since been reduced to a mere ornament. Where is the final entrance to the city downgrade mode? I looked up at Xianan. "Go to the dispatch center." Lu Mingyuan stepped on the gas pedal. The van sped off into the rain. There are 21 minutes left until the countdown for the bridge across the river Begi. N.S. Xinghuan security personnel are already stationed outside the dispatch center. I don't know when Shen Yangxiu figured out I was coming. Maybe he's been waiting for me to come back here all along. The lights in the old building were blinding. I climbed over the side gate, and my shoulder was cut open by the iron bars. Xianan logged in remotely from outside, while Lu Mingyuan went to find a backup live streaming port. I rushed up to the main control room on the 3rd floor, all by myself. As soon as I pushed open the door, I saw Liao Cheng. He was accompanied by 4 security guards, his face a mixture of fear and ferocity. "Xu Chenzhou, you really do have the nerve to come back." I looked at him. This place is just like it was that night. Monitor screen, cold light, duty desk. Only this time, the walls were covered with red countdowns. Liao Cheng pointed at me. "Grab him. The Star Ring people are on their way." The security guard rushed over. I grabbed a chair and threw it at him. The first person fell. The second person grabbed me around the waist and shoved me into the control console. I tasted blood in my mouth. Liao Cheng lunged at me to snatch the USB drive from my hand. "You're just a contract worker, and you think you can run the show." I gripped his wrist tightly. "When you were falsifying the records, did you ever think about today?" Liao Cheng's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" A voice came from the doorway of the control room. "He's right." Han Zhang walked in. 2 detectives were following behind him. He presented the arrest warrant. "Liao Cheng, you're suspected of falsifying public safety system records and obstructing an accident investigation. Come with us." Liao Cheng froze. "Captain Han, aren't you making a mistake? He's the one who's wanted." Han Zheng glanced at me. "This is a request for assistance in the investigation, not a conviction." Then he said to me, "You only have 10 minutes. This was the first time he had truly taken my side. Liao Cheng was still shouting as he was being held down. "Xu Chenzhou, you're done for. President Shen won't let you off the hook." I didn't look at him again. I rushed over to the old-fashioned manual dispatch console. That machine had been covered with a cloth for a long time, and its edges were covered in dust. I lifted the cloth and inserted the USB drive. The screen lit up. It is not that fancy interface from City Safety Brain. It is the most basic black background with white text design. Manual demotion. Protocol initiated. Please enter your confirmation credentials. I entered the old verification code my father left behind. Approved. The second line is skipped. City level downgrade requires final confirmation. I pressed confirm. The screen turned red. Confirmation failed. Xinghuan Smart City remote access lockdown. Shen Yangxiu's face appeared on the big screen. The live feed from the press conference was routed to the control room. He looked at me as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "Me, Xu Chenzhou, your father reached this point back then, too." I stared at him. Shen Yangxiu spoke calmly. "He failed. That's because a manual system shutdown requires approval from the curb. And highest authority at City Security Brain. Starring doesn't agree. You're just a contractor. What right do you have to shut down the entire city systems. There are 7 minutes left on the countdown. Restrictions on the construction site for the Cross River Bridge are beginning to tighten. The crowd density at the subway transfer station has exceeded the threshold. There was an abnormal increase in oxygen supply pressure at the third hospital. My fingers were trembling. It is not that I'm afraid. I'm starting to forget why I'm standing here. Shu Nian's face began to blur again. I looked down and saw a sticky note attached to my wrist. I wrote it myself. You have a younger sister named Shu Nian. She's on the bridge. I closed my eyes for a moment. Then he looked at the old-fashioned mechanical suitcase next to him. I saw that thing when I was a kid. When my dad brought me to the control center, he pointed at it and said, no matter how fast the new system runs, there must always be someone there to hit the brakes, because machines don't know what regret is. I reached out and grabbed the handle. For the first time, Chen Yangxiu's expression changed. You can't touch that. I smiled. You just asked me what gives me the right. I smashed open the protective cover on the handle. According to this city's earliest agreement, it doesn't say confirmed by Star Ring. It's manually verified. I pulled down hard. The lights in the entire control room dimmed. All large screens went black at the same time. The next second, the 3D model of the city lit up again, but this time, the blue interface of the star ring no longer covered it. These are lines of low-level logs. Xianan's voice came through the headphones. It's connected. Shu Chenzhou. All the logs are coming up. Lu Mingyuan also shouted. The live feed is being shown on the backup screen at the press conference. The whole city can see it. At the press conference, the large screen behind Shen Yangxiu suddenly changed. The audience, the media, and government representatives all looked up. Before they witnessed the school bus accident, Handle Dragon had raised the risk weighting for braking on Nanlin Road. The construction monitoring system was delayed by 0.8 seconds before the subway cave-in occurred. I noticed that the load on the hospital's backup power supply had been incorrectly allocated. On the day of the Heilan Tunnel accident, my father, Xu Jiangguo, submitted 3 consecutive requests to downgrade the city's status, all of which were rejected by Xinghuan's backend system. Line after line of log entries scroll by. Behind every so-called accident, there is an invisible hand. Shen Yangxiu finally lost his composure during the live stream. Cut. No one can cut it. Hanzheng disconnected the Xinghuan dedicated line outside the control room. Lu Mingyuan's backup signal was hidden in the newspaper's old broadcast van. From 3 years ago, Xianan copied all the logs to more than a dozen overseas servers and simultaneously sent them to the investigation team. Standing in front of the manual dispatch console, I watched the entire sequence of events unfold before my eyes. On the bridge spanning the river, a truck is about to change lanes due to a slight adjustment in its navigation settings, triggering a chain reaction collision behind it. At a subway transfer station, an escalator was accidentally set to a higher speed, causing a stampede. In the third hospital's oxygen supply system, the pressure valve will shut off for 17 seconds in response to an incorrect command. 17 seconds is enough to kill someone. I'm activating city downgrade mode. Citywide smart traffic system switches to manual operation. Subway automatic dispatch system downgraded. The hospital's oxygen supply system is no longer under the control of the city's safety monitoring system. Signal control handover for the Cross River Bridge. The city seemed to have been yanked awake from a nightmare. On the bridge, traffic police manually blocked off the truck lanes, and the ambulance carrying Shu Nian was parked in a safe zone. At a subway transfer station, all escalators came to an emergency stop, and station staff opened the manual evacuation doors. The oxygen supply valve at the third hospital has returned to local control, and the red pressure line is slowly dropping back into the safe range. The 3-string countdown stopped at 0 hours 0 minutes and 1 second. Then they all go out at the same time. My knees gave way, and I fell to my knees. Shu Nian's sobs came through the headphones. Bro, the bridge has stopped. We're okay. I wanted to answer her, but suddenly, I couldn't remember what bro meant. As Shen Yangxiu was being taken away, he was still insisting that he had done nothing wrong. He said, without accident data, a city will never improve. Trading a few risks for overall safety is the best solution. The mother of a child who survived a school bus accident rushed over and slapped him hard across the face. What gives you the right to choose for my son? Shen Yangxiu stood there, stunned. That slap spoke louder than any evidence. The Xinghuan Smart City project was shut down, and Candle Dragon's core code was presented as evidence in court. Liao Cheng produced several records of deletions and revisions. Zhou Yan turned himself in and handed over the internal interface. Xianan became a witness for the prosecution. Lu Mingyuan rewrote the report on the Heilan Tunnel accident. The title consists of just one sentence. He wasn't the one who caused the accident. He was the first one to hit the brakes. Say Ti Dai Sai Ding. My father's name was finally crossed off the list of those responsible. Xu Jiangguo, early architect of the urban safety brain. He lost his life in the Heilan Tunnel accident while attempting to activate manual degradation mode. Shu Nianian told me all of this later, because by the time I woke up, I couldn't really remember much. The ward was very quiet. Sunlight streamed in through the gap in the curtains. A girl was sitting by the bed. She was holding her her cell phone, her eyes red. I looked at her and knew she was important. It wasn't my memory that told me how important this was. It was my body that recognized it first. Whenever I see her upset, my heart aches. When she saw that I had woken up, she tried to smile. "You're awake?" I asked. "Who are you?" Tears suddenly welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped it away. "It's okay." She turned on her phone and played the first recording. It was her voice inside. "Brother, my name is Shu Nian. My birthday is the 26th of March. You said I used to cry a lot when I was little and was afraid of thunder, but actually, I'm not afraid of it anymore." The second recording began to play. "Your name is Shu Chenjo. You don't talk much, you're stubborn, and your cooking is terrible, but you always say it's not too bad." Paragraph 3. "Dad's name is Shu Jiangwo. He's not a bad person. Neither are you." She played it for me, one section at a time. I listened quietly, as if I were hearing the life story of a stranger. When I heard the last part, it was my own voice. "My voice is a little hoarse, and I'm really tired. Shu Chenjo, if you've forgotten again, don't panic. You've saved a busload of children, subway workers, a hospital, and even an entire city." In the recording, I paused for a long time. Then he said, "Also, don't forget to get to know Shu Nian all over again. She's the person you want to protect the most." All that remained in the ward was the faint hum of electricity. Shu Nian sat on the edge of my bed, her fingers clutching the corner of the blanket. I looked at her and slowly began to speak. "Shu Nian." She looked up. I said, "Could you repeat that?" She laughed through her tears. "Okay." Outside the window, traffic in Yunhai City had returned to a slow, orderly pace following manual traffic control. There is no countdown. There are no red numbers. It was only her voice that, little by little, brought me back from the void.